Hi, I'd like to talk you through one idea I have for reaching beyond the learning management system to online communities of practice defined as social networks and knowledge development communities. I see there being a connection between how learning happens in the brain individually and how learning happens socially. Because the different people that we interact with represent other points of view, other points of experience, other creators of content and perspective. And our sense of who these people are and how they connect to us is an externalization of the same kinds of connections that we make internally about different experiences and thoughts and things that we've done. If we look at the two sides of the brain, we see that there are learning objects which have different capacities for containing and illustrating aspects of knowledge and of experience. Involving each of these kinds of objects in instruction when they're relevant makes a lot of sense. Obviously, if we look here, the idea of bringing in comics and newsletters and debates and movies and community discussions is a lot broader than just the standard items that you would get out of Moodle or Blackboard. So Stephen Downes, the father of connectivism, speaks about how these connections are easily made with digital platforms that are available through social media. However, when people think about connectivism, they usually put themselves at the center and think about all the different connections and communities they have, which doesn't really inform the design of a course. In a course, the connectivist model puts connectivism itself at the center and speaks about the tools, the process, the connections, the patterns, and the networks. But I'm going to suggest that the concept of the community of practice is even better as a central organizing principle, because that community will be defined by what your course is about and will also help select what are the elements that are best used for students learning the epistemology, the way of seeing and determining truth together, and the tools that people in this community make. So if we put the course together, we say, let's find the online networks that focus on the domain of that course, find experts, discover how they decide on what's true, find data sources that reflect the knowledge domain, find the programs, the software that people in the field use, and identify the ways that experts participate. So this is a model for developing a connectivist course, leveraging the community of practice model as it can be applied. So there'll be a technology strategy that says what are we going to use for programs and for media, and there'll be an instructional strategy which says how do the students do their work. And this generates these 6 items that I have in this diagram. You articulate the elements, design an instructional strategy, add a technology strategy. I took a MOOC with Coursera that was taught by Gary Burton, a great jazz teacher and vibes player. This is my map of how that course ran. What was particularly interesting was that the students in the MOOC brought in new tools that the course had not suggested because musicians use SoundCloud, not Coursera's LMS. And SoundCloud gives the ability to add comments at specific places in music and also to develop a follower network. So because students were interacting as musicians, different software, different tools, and different strategies could be brought in, even though these weren't intended by the developers of the MOOC. I invited one of my fellow students to try this model out on a course she was developing for dental hygienists. And this is what she came up with, and it was useful for her. So I'm going to leave you with this slide and suggest that maybe this is a model that's worth pursuing, not for all courses, but for those that are attempting to connect students with ways of building knowledge and networks around particular knowledge domains. Thank you.